Okay, so yesterday we talked about the institution of Birkot Torah and the value of it, and now we'll talk a little bit about the meanings of the actual words and why it's divided to three parts. So Birkot Torah are comprised of three parts. In the first part, we bless Hashem, who sanctified us with His mitzvot and commanded us to occupy ourselves with the study of Torah. And one of the suggestions for the source for this is from the Shema, where it says "V'shinantam levanecha." So also in the second paragraph of the Shema, it says the same idea that you have to learn it. And that's why, according to many poskim, the minimum of Torah study a day is twice, one in the morning and one in the evening, saying the Shema. But there's other verses that people quote, and I'll just quote one that I don't think makes a lot of sense, which is V'hagita bo yomam v'layla. Joshua was told that the only way that he will succeed in the war against Jericho is if he studies the Torah day and night. And I think that the angel meant literally as much time possible during the day and the night. And there's a story in the Talmud, in one of the later Masechtot, about Rabbi Nehorai, I think his name was, who somebody asked him, "Are you allowed to study Greek philosophy?" And he said, I think sarcastically, since it says that you have to study Torah day and night, if you can find a time that's not day or night, then you're allowed to learn Greek philosophy. But of course, Maimonides learned it because otherwise he couldn't quote from Aristotle. So, and we don't learn mitzvot from the prophets, we only learn them from the 5 books of Moses. And so it's a good idea that you should study as much Torah, but nobody can ever say that that's a commandment to study Torah 24/7. So that's the first blessing. It's sanctifying us with mitzvot like any other mitzvah. Netilat Yadayim, Kiddush, Halakat Nerot, even Nerot Chanukah, because we are commanded to listen to the rabbis. So that's the first part. The second part, we request that the Torah which Hashem taught His nation Israel be pleasant to us, that we merit learning it with desire, and that we and our offspring have the privilege of understanding the depths of its content. And because we talked about yesterday about how we're not supposed to learn it just for wisdom, we're supposed to learn it to apply it to our life, and because it's a gift from Hashem. And in the third part, we bless and thank Hashem for choosing us from among all the nations and giving us His Torah. And so again, we mentioned it slightly yesterday, but the idea of the Midrash, that the angel of God went from nation to nation and asked them if they want the Torah, and with each nation, the angel tricked them to tell them the one thing that they probably can't keep. Avram Fried, by the way, has a very modern interpretation of this. It's a great song. He talks about how the angel went to Moscow and told them about believing in Hashem, and of course they were atheists at the time. He told them he went to Paris and talked about modesty. He went to England and talked about arrogance and colonialism and all those other things. So bottom line is, whether we chose to say to Hashem, yes, we will do the Torah, or He chose us for the Torah, we're it, and we are supposed to thank Hashem for that. So the Chachamim say, this is Brachot 11b, that this is the prime bracha of Birkot Torah, since it mentions the unique virtue of the nation of Israel, that Hashem chose us from among all the nations, and because of this divine selection, consequently gave us His Torah. Last but not least about this is also the only blessing that we make when we are called up to the Torah. We don't say the first two. We don't say the Asher Kicham Tzivanu Asok B'divrei Torah when we get called up to the Torah. So that's why this blessing, the third one, is the most important. And this is the nature of Israel's soul, that it is attached and devoted to Hashem and His Torah, and therefore only the nation of Israel can receive the Torah and with it illuminate the world. Again, it's a responsibility to use the Torah to teach the rest of the world, not to keep it only for ourselves. Among the nations of the world, there may be righteous and devout Gentiles, but this is a personal piety of individual people, who lack the ability to repair the entire world. As seen from our long history, only the nation of Israel can serve Hashem within a national framework and strive to uplift and rectify the world in the path of truth and kindness. And we always mention that we, of course, do need the help of Goyim, especially ones who support us. Um, and and that's why they only have 7 mitzvot, because that fulfills their obligation and their relationship with Hashem. Hashem gave us more mitzvot in order to create a national unity. There's not physically, it's not possible for any Jew to keep all 613 commandments. And when our rabbis say that Jacob kept all the commandments and Abraham and others, and they're talking only about the commandments that they could keep, and the ones that they couldn't, it's because they learned them and learned what God's will was, it's as if they kept them. So one of the mitzvot, I'll just give 2 commandments. One is you are supposed to organize a Jewish court, a Beit Din, of 23 men to rule in the case of a Ben Soror Moreh, a rebellious son. Okay? I really hope and pray that we never have to keep that mitzvah. We don't want to stone a 13-year-old boy. And so, but we learn the parsha of Ben Soror Moreh in order to understand what God's will is for the world, God's will for education of our children, etc. The other mitzvah that I pray that none of us have to do is machzir gushato. There's a mitzvah that if you divorced a wife and she didn't go and get married to somebody else, that there is a positive commandment to remarry her and to again take her back into the fold and take care of her and show her respect. And I'm sure that Yaakov did not do that because he had 4 wives and they all died before he did. So he could not ever keep this commandment of remarrying his divorcee. Based on this, it is clear why the Avat Olam Bracha, or Avar Rabba, according to the Ashkenaz, which we say before the recital of Shema, can replace Birkot Torah. The main part of this prayer refers to Hashem's love for Israel, and its conclusion is, who chooses his people, Israel, with love. And the reason for the difference between Avat Olam and Avar Rabba, since we never talked about it, is because there's 2 different verses in the prophets that use that either expression, and so the Sephardi and Hasidic custom is to say Avat Olam, which means eternal love, and the Ashkenazi custom is to say Avar Rabba, which means abundant love. And obviously they mean similar things, but it's up to what siddur you pray for to know what you say. Additionally, the subject of Torah is mentioned at length, for Israel and the Torah are inseparable. And that's what we said, Torah Israel, Hashem and the people of Israel, it's a 3-part link that will never be separated. In practice, one who is not certain as to whether he recited Birkot Torah can have kavanah to fulfill his obligation of Birkot Torah when reciting Ahavat Olam. Also, practically speaking, he'll be more awake by that time. And likewise, one who forgets to recite Birkot Torah before praying and arrives at Ahavat Olam should have in mind to fulfill the obligation of Birkot Torah when saying it, because you're not supposed to go all the way back to the beginning when the community is already almost up to the Shema. And after the prayer service, remember to learn words of Torah as one does after Birkot Torah. Rabbi Herzfeld mentioned, I think, earlier this week when we were talking about the Ketoret, that the Sephardi and Hasidic minhag is to read Pitum Ketoret every day, the making of the incense, all of its 11 spices and different liquids that were added to it. And so even though we can't keep the incense, the mitzvah of burning incense today, we still have a way to learn about it and to study it, and that's why in many kehilot they either say the Pitum Ketoret, or like our community, Rabbi Herzfeld gives a Dvar Torah at the end of Shabbos, and then we can say the Rabbi's Kaddish, because again, if people missed Birkot Torah, that's a perfect opportunity to learn Torah. And I just one more minute. The breaking of the luchot, we were discussing this week if if that was something holy or not. But bottom line, at the very end, it says that Hashem told Moses to put the luchot, the whole ones, the second ones, and the broken ones in the ark. And that's why it was called Arona Edut, the Ark of Covenant or of Testimony. And next to it, one of the three objects was the 13th Sefer Torah that he wrote for the tribe of Levi, because now we had 13 tribes. So each one of the tribes got a Torah, a complete 5 books of Moses, and the 13th one was left in the Holy of Holies next to the ark. So it's very appropriate for this parasha to learn about Birkot Torah and how much we love Hashem for it, and we'll wish everybody Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.